We hopefully will be able to answer all the questions that you have. But this is the first meeting of the council to begin to talk about the FY26 budget. Normally we have this meeting in December. It's meant to be high level, priorities, direction. We have just begun department budget meetings. So we've just begun actually all the little easy ones so far. This is a good time for us to hear from you if we're headed in the right direction, if we have the right priorities, if there's big things. There will be lots of times to evaluate the actual budget. That will be coming several months from now, where you'll be able to see more line items, more specifics. So this is meant to be 30,000 foot. But again, any direction, now's a good time for us to be able to plug it into the budget. So with that, I will turn it over to Rob to get us started.
All right, good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, and Council. My name is Robert Baer, and I'll be giving the financial update part of this presentation. We also have the CIP update, and we'll cover some budget priorities. So starting off, we'll go take a look at how we ended the last fiscal year 24. So we'll first take a look at general fund revenues. So our general fund is the fund that we center a lot of discussions on during the budget process because, one, it is where a lot of our frontline services like police, fire, parks, that's where the funding comes from for those areas in the city. Two, most of the employees here in the city are paid out of that fund, so it is of special focus when we go through the budget process. For general fund revenues, our largest source of revenues in the general fund is our sales tax. In March of 24, as we were preparing the 25 budget, we came forward with an estimate for each of our major revenue sources, and then we're taking a look at the actuals and how we ended the year. So with sales tax, we ended $2.6 million above what we were anticipating in March, which is a very positive variance, mostly due to strong construction and contracting activity throughout the city. Some of the other ones we'd like to highlight is charges for service, which is also related to a lot of the development happening in the city. So we saw very strong returns in the last 3 months for those revenue sources. And then for our property sales and interest, we have been able to earn higher interest on our investments, on our fund balance here in the city. So all in total for general fund revenues, compared to where we were estimating in March, we ended the year $11 million above that forecast, which is good to roll into fiscal year 25. On the expense side, for the general fund, we had an estimate which was below budget, but we estimated where we were anticipating end of the year, and then we have our actuals. For the general fund, we ended $2.1 million higher than what our estimate was in March. Part of that was we had some expenses that we were anticipating that were originally budgeted in 24 that we anticipated those actually hitting in fiscal year 25, but those actually did hit in 24. So that increases the 24 amount, but decreases what we anticipate in 25. A second part of that is we had some savings in public safety that we were able to pay down some of our unfunded liability for our public safety pensions. Our other major operating funds here in the city include our public safety sales tax fund and our utility funds. Those were pretty close to where we were estimating in March. Public safety was a little bit above due to that same paying down of the unfunded pension liabilities, and our utilities were pretty close to where we were anticipating in March. So with our general fund balance coming into fiscal year 25, so we ended fiscal year 24 over $120 million, which is above the orange line, which is our stabilization or our minimum reserve amount in the general fund. We do have a dotted line on here. So we do have a number of capital projects that were initially budgeted in 24. They were not completed in 24. They will probably complete in 25. So that budget was initially in the 24 budget. It carries over into the 25 budget. But since that was already authorized in the 24 budget, if we include that in our estimate, that lowers our fund balance by about $16 million. So that's just kind of an important caveat to take a look at as we look at the budget. So giving an update on how we're trending this fiscal year. So we're about halfway through the year, a little bit more. So going into the fiscal year 25, what we included in this budget, we included $511 million in funded CIP. We approved additional full-time equivalent positions of 13.4. We had funded supplementals, so additions to the budget of $13.3 million. We fully implemented the police take-home vehicle program, and then we also included service increases for WeRide. For our revenues, halfway through the year, for our general fund, right now, compared to prior year actuals, we're $8.7 million above prior year actuals, and compared to our budget, we're $3.6 million above. For the public safety sales tax fund, we are about $400,000 above our budget and about $100,000 above prior year actuals. And our utilities, we are trending, for water, are trending above budget, and sewer and solid waste, we're right on track for budget for our revenues. Digging a little deeper into the general fund, so you can see with sales tax, right now we are about 9% above those prior year actuals for sales tax, and we've updated our forecast. We're about 2% above the updated forecast for sales tax. What I will also highlight state shared revenue. So compared to prior year actuals, we're down about 9%. That is because we are seeing the effects of the implementation of the state's flat tax. We're seeing that in the portion of the state's income tax that gets shared with us as a city. Compared to forecast, though, we're pretty much right on target, just a little bit below there. Other sources for the general fund include charges for service, license fees, and fines. We're 36% above our forecast, 79% above prior year actual, so we have some really good news there. And for property sales and interest, we are 40% above prior year actuals and 15% above our forecast. So most of our revenues in the general fund are trending very positively. Digging into sales tax, which is the largest source of general fund revenues, this is actually for all funds because we have two specialized sales taxes here in the city, not just for general fund, but also for public safety and for streets, water, sewer improvements. We have various categories of sales tax. Retail is the largest component of that. Compared to prior year actuals, we're about 3% above prior year actuals. Compared to our forecast, we are trending right along with that forecast. The one that is the hardest to forecast is our contracting construction sales tax. Right now, we are 43% above prior year actuals, which is great news, and 17% above our forecast. So that one's the hardest one to forecast because it's really dependent on development activity here in the city, which can be highly cyclical.
Rob, Mr. Mayor, if I can interrupt for just a second. He's going at a good pace. If you guys have questions, don't hesitate to stop while we're on that slide. But I also, if you could go back to the last slide, Rob, I just want to clarify a couple things. He said this, but I just wanted to hit home. The contracting is the reason our sales tax revenue is up. That is not reoccurring revenue. Most of that, and I can let Rob or Keith talk about the number, but most of that goes into one-time spending. We do not expect for that number to stay at that level forever. Eventually, Verde Trails is starting to run near completion. Other ones are starting, but at some point, so we don't staff, we don't create programs based on revenue that isn't expected to be there for the long haul. You never know when it's going to stop. And we have lots of growth still available to us, but I just want to make it very clear that if you're wondering why we're not doing more or we're not adding more staff or more programs, we don't budget. That goes into CIP projects, which you see we have a very robust program. The other thing for me that is a tell is that our general sales, our retail is flat, auto flat, down a hair. So when it comes to spending habits of our residents or people shopping in Avondale, it's flat. So we're not seeing a significant growth. Is this fair, Rob, in our ongoing revenue? I just want to kind of clarify that when you look at the big numbers and how we're spending our money. We are very conservative in our budgeting and making sure that we don't overspend what we can't keep going.
Just a quick question, the rental line that's there, is that apartments? Is that going to go down? And when we don't get the stuff from the state, how does that number reflect with what the state is not going to give us?
Mayor, Vice Mayor, Council. So the majority of the rentals is residential rental. So that sales tax goes away in January this month. So we will see that definitely decrease over the second half of the year.
So that's $4 million?
About
Are we going to lose all of that?
Yes.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, Vice Mayor, we will still have some commercial rental that will stay there, so the number won't go to zero, but I think it's closer to 5 to 6 million, especially if you take into the growth that council approved over the last 5-6 years on all those apartments that will no longer be receiving rental tax on. The long-term impact.
Really quickly, Ron, just even based on discussion of future development that we're all aware of with some of the data centers and such, based on our communication, it was important, I guess reiterated the fact that we don't count on that until it comes to fruition. And so for that point, as I would have anticipated the offset, that we should not do that until it comes to fruition, correct?
Mr. Mayor and Council, yes. We don't budget hope, and I consider it very hopeful that those will come to fruition. I confirmed with Kim today, the one that I thought was lagging, that should have already started groundbreaking today, the one on Avondale Boulevard, Kim, I don't remember the name of it, Prime Data Centers. And the ones, Mr. Mayor and Council, on Lower Buckeye Road, they're pouring cement and foundations and footings and all sorts of stuff. So they're moving very fast down there. So very hopeful.
I just thought it was appropriate to make sure that I comment on that, for the fact that while we're out there and the discussion center around what we're losing, which is about 5, maybe 6 million for the TPT tax regarding to rentals, is that I know that in the past I've said that the fix it'll be offset later, but based upon our conversation, I thought that was helpful that you referenced it that way. So, thank you.
All right, thank you. So we also have some graphs that speak to the growth that we've had in sales tax. So in fiscal years 20, 21, 22, we saw sales tax grow significantly, partially because of all the federal stimulus that was going around. People's spending habits changed quite a bit with the pandemic. So we really did see that really significant growth those years. We are starting to see that flatten out, especially when it comes to retail tax, like Ron was mentioning. Retail tax is our largest category of sales tax. It's the one that we pay the most attention to because it speaks to the larger health of the economy. We are still seeing growth there. It's minimal. We're looking at 3% over last year compared to fiscal years 20, 21, 22, where we did see that significant growth. I also have a slide here speaking to state shared revenue and the fact that we are this year, the blue line is actually below the purple line. So for fiscal year 25, we're actually below last year due to the implementation of that state flat tax. Another significant thing that we take a look at, an indicator that we take a look at as we're doing our revenue forecasting, is single-family permits. For single-family permits, we're tracking along with the budget. Obviously, some months we're above budget, some months we're below budget. Compared to last year, we're generally lower, but that has been made up by significant activity on the commercial multifamily side. So as far as our development revenues go overall, they've been exceeding, but it's been driven more on the commercial multifamily side. As far as our operating expenses for our major operating funds for fiscal year 25, so for the general fund, we are about $3.5 million below budget. You'll notice those lines are when we're below budget for this one, they're green, not red, because that is a good sign. So for general fund, we're $3.5 million below our budget year to date. For our other funds, you can see that we also have some savings there that we've realized through the first 6 months of the year. So I just throw a lot of numbers about fiscal year 24, 25. So that is all going into what our forecast is, which really how we drive decisions during the budget process here in Avondale. So we have some assumptions going into our forecast. So we are assuming that employees here in the city will receive a COLA and merit. Our public safety positions are going to receive step increases. Additionally, we have a market study to make sure that we're competitive with our highly competitive positions here in the city, and we can match what the market is for those positions. We do have increases in healthcare costs. We know that healthcare is one of those costs that always increases every year, and we have a significant increase in the budget for that. We have the continued implementation of our police take-home vehicle program. We have factored in the loss of the residential rental sales tax. We do have our contracting sales tax, which, as Ron highlighted, is more towards the one-time side of things, the one-time revenue. We have that going down to more of a base level. We have seen very significant developments here in the city, but as Ron says, we don't want to continue to budget hope. And we are not including a recession in our forecast. So here in the city, we are trying to maintain a structural balance. And what that means is that our ongoing revenues, the revenues that we can depend on year to year, whether we're seeing economic growth flat or if we're seeing that explosive growth, we want to have revenues that we can depend on good years and bad years. That is the blue line on this chart, and as you can see, that is above the orange line, which is the ongoing expenses. So what that means is that we're structurally balanced. What we're forecasting is we are maintaining a structural balance throughout the forecast. In 26 and 27, that number is about $2.5 million, where the ongoing revenues are exceeding the ongoing expenses. You'll also notice that that number does dip from fiscal year 24 to fiscal year 25, and that is because, one, the loss of the residential rental sales tax, and two, the implementation of the state flat income tax. We also take a look at one-time revenues and expenses. So one-time expenses would be things like capital improvement projects, our continued reinvestment in infrastructure here in the city. That exceeds our one-time revenues, which our one-time revenues are usually tied to development, our contracting, construction sales tax, and those development-related revenues for permitting and planning. With that, we do have a conservative assumption with those one-time revenues, and we have the one-time expenses exceeding that. We do have what we call the Dorito chip, that big spike in fiscal year 25 for one-time expenses. And what that is we have a number of capital projects that have been in design, in construction, but the nature of construction is that you budget 1 year and sometimes those projects slide. So we have a number of projects that are budgeted in fiscal year 25 that are nearing completion, like the detention center that recently completed and Fire Station 171, which is anticipated to complete in the next year or so. Let's try to remember that one off the top of my head. So in terms of our general fund forecast, so we are in a great position going into the fiscal year 26 budget process. So we are anticipating that we maintain above what we call our minimum reserves, our stabilization amount, throughout the forecast. By fiscal year 2030, that number is $30 million. One caveat with that $30 million is that doesn't mean we have $30 million available every year. It means we have $30 million at the end of the forecast. So if we add $1 million of ongoing expenses in fiscal year 26, that reduces that fiscal year 2030 number by $5 million. If we add, a $1 million project in fiscal year 26, that reduces that fiscal year 2030 number by $1 million.
Mr. Mayor, if I can add, Rob, this also doesn't include the supplementals that have been asked for or any either ongoing or one time. So this is one of the slides that will come down, hopefully, as we go through the budget process. But this is very good news. The slide we saw 6 months ago or however long ago, it was much lower than that. So we are absolutely moving in the right direction.
So going into the fiscal year 26 budget cycle. So our budgeting philosophy here is we want to make sure that we maintain that structurally balanced budget where our ongoing revenues exceed ongoing expenses. Because we don't want to have positions here in the city that if economic times get rough, we see a slowdown in development here in the city that we have to make some tough decisions. We want to make sure that we can maintain the ongoing services that our citizens depend on. So we want to maintain that structurally balanced budget. We target having 10% above that stabilization amount in the next year. We want to make sure that we try to spread out CIP projects, other one-time expenses over that 5-year forecast and not just put everything into the next budget year. We want to make sure that we're making decisions based off of that 5-year forecast. We don't want to say, oh, we have all these extra reserves, fund a bunch of stuff, and then at the end of the 5 years, we're having to make some very tough decisions. We want to make sure that we're keeping that long-range focus in mind as we make decisions during the budget process. To reiterate, we also want to make sure that we're trying to spread out the capital projects over that 5-year horizon and not just budgeting everything in fiscal year 26. And also consider any operating expenses that we may need to add and factoring those into our forecast long-term over the 5-year planning period. We also have a slide for compensation and benefits, which Andy can speak to.
Thanks, Rob. So talking about compensation, as Rob mentioned, we are in the midst of completing a market study to ensure that our positions are appropriately aligned with our current market, that we're continuing to remain competitive. The preliminary information has shown that the majority of our positions are currently within market. We're targeting about 20% of our current jobs that we're evaluating a little bit more closely to ensure that if there's any adjustments that we need to make, that we're planning accordingly for FY26. Additionally, we're looking at COLA and merit, kind of determining what that combination is going to look like for FY26. Currently, we're looking at somewhere between a 3 to 5% amount, but not sure really what that looks like from, what aspect of that would be COLA versus merit. One of the other things that we're considering, and this comes from our benefits committee, but also looking at some strategies that other agencies have utilized, is if an employee is topped out in their particular market range and maybe they're not eligible for any additional merit, the consideration of giving a one-time lump sum of what that percentage increase would be for them. So while it wouldn't be an ongoing expense for the city, it would be something to reward that employee for good performance over that year in a one-time lump sum amount at the time that we do implement any increases. As far as benefits go, as Rob mentioned again, the increased cost of healthcare is something that we currently have to strategize on as we look at healthcare costs going up. You may recall last year we implemented a 4-tier employee benefits plan, essentially going from an employee and family tier to employee spouse, employee family, and employee and children, to give employees more options and ensuring that there wasn't the brunt of healthcare costs wasn't falling on one particular group. So we've implemented that 4-tier approach this last fiscal year, and we're currently looking at kind of smoothing out that cost to ensure that those level out. We did have a plan to have that level out. I can't remember if it was over the 3 years. So this is kind of year 2 into that aspect. Additionally, we continuously look to seek information from our employee benefits committee. So again, these are employees that represent their respective departments. They bring back feedback to our group so that we can evaluate it and analyze that. Some of the information that we've at least preliminarily received are things like a new vision plan vendor, so looking at one that more closely meets our current needs of our employee base. Looking at deferred comp contributions. So one of the things that we do for our public safety groups is to provide, if they contribute, I think it's $50 per pay period into the deferred comp account, the city will match that and provide that same benefit. So we're looking at the cost of providing that benefit to all of our employees across the city and just ensuring that that's something that we can sustain for the long term. But that's one of the things that came out of those benefits committees. We're also looking at, if you recall last year, we had a policy specific to public safety for our police officers about being able to provide or sell back sick leave at the end of our fiscal year. And so again, looking at strategies like that for our employee base to see if that's something, again, just looking in that retention aspect, the recruitment retention priorities for us as a city. So I'm happy to answer any questions. Or Mr. Corbin, if there's anything additional that you'd like me to cover.
No, thank you, Mr. Mayor, if I may. Thank you, Andy and Rob. Just for council, know that in the base budget that we have started with, that includes a 5% merit COLA mix for employees. We included, is it 11% increase in healthcare costs we've included in that. And we have already set aside money to implement the market study. We don't know the exact numbers yet, so it may be more or less, and we'll adjust that as we go. But know that that's already built into our starting point as we begin to work through this year's budget. We've started with those costs.
Any questions from council?
Very good.
Okay, thank you so much, Andy. Oh, sorry.
I just got a curiosity one here. The sellback, you said that's on an annual basis. Is that on the calendar year? Is it the employment year? Or is it the fiscal year when someone can sell that back to?
That's a good question.
Mr. Mayor, Vice Mayor, currently for the option on the sick leave side, it's on the end of the fiscal year basis. So right now we have our vacation sellback that happens in December, so right before the end of the calendar year. This currently for our police, our sworn officers is, and again, this is our first year doing it, but it would be in June timeframe, and I think it's up to 40 hours.
Just so there's no confusion about all the way through, but if there's two set points, thank you.
Mr. Mayor and Vice Mayor, it also allows us to budget, so they have to put in their request early. And so we pay it out after July 1st so that we can budget it. So it goes into one-time costs as we can fund it and budget it. But it was our plan to evaluate it over the next year or so to see if it's something we can roll out to other employees. It's usually meant for long-term employees who've been here a while and had the opportunity to build up their sick leave.
No other comments? Thank you, Ron. And thank you, Andy.
All right, so looking at the timeline for the budget process this year. So obviously this is our update on the budget here in January. In February, in the second meeting, we're looking to come back with some information about utility rates. We anticipate there being some significant discussion there, as there's some very large capital projects going on in utility, the wastewater treatment plant expansion, potentially some large water infrastructure projects as well. In March, we are looking to have work sessions on the budget and working towards the city manager's recommended budget in April. And then May and June would be tentative budget adoption and final budget adoption. So thank you, everyone. Any questions before I hand it off to Rick?
Any questions from council? I just wanted to share, or at least make the comment regarding the budget philosophy that it's kind of usually when you say a broken record, that's a negative thing, but it's really good to know that we've been so consistent, at least since I've been on council and council prior to that, of being, so prudent with the residents' money and the way that we allocate and spend it. But also one of the things too is in regards to projects as we plan them out long term. And again, this goes back to my discussion with City Manager Corbin, is costs only go up in most cases. And so being able to take advantage of opportunities at a short amount of time, we also must think about some of those things as they become on our radar and part of the priorities, because as I say, you have to strike when the iron's hot. Sometimes we have to take advantage of those cost savings when we can get them. So while I definitely appreciate that long-term strategy, it's also, I think, vital that we also look at some of those short-term wins as a part of that budget process as well. So thank you.
Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, Council members. I'm Rick Carr. I'm the Engineering CIP Division Manager, and I will update you here on our fiscal year 24-25 capital improvement plan. Okay. So projects that we've completed since July 1 include the Mountain View expansion, park expansion, about $1.1 million project. We completed the detention center and PD substation, $21.3 million there. We have resurfaced Avondale Boulevard from I-10 to Broadway. That was a $2 million project there. Gateway program, we completed the monument sign with the Agua Fria High School students, which you see in the photo there. and we've completed the wastewater odor control program for $8.5 million. So about a total of $33.1 million in projects. So, and been able to find some savings in those projects a little bit with some different pavement preservation options, and we came in early on the detention center, so we were proud to get that completed.
Mr. Mayor, if I can interrupt, Mr. Mayor and Council, since he's standing there, I'd like to once again publicly say thank you to Rick for the Gateway program. We'll do a lot of big things over my career here. I hope we got to open the Aquatic Center, but things like this that involve our high school students and create a long-lasting legacy for our residents who live in the area. Every time they drive through, or their kids or grandkids years from now, God willing, they'll be able to point to their impact on the community. So it's just one of those things. And Rick was given just a little bit of direction, him and Kim and the team, and turned it into a program that I didn't imagine, teaching kids how to take art and create a monument sign through design, through permitting, through the whole process. So again, just a big thank you to that. Also managing these programs, I have 2 goals with every program: on time, under budget, and they were able to do that with the detention and PD substation. And so I'm very appreciative of the work that their team does. And shout out to Kirk's team. He did say pavement, we saved money, but Gus has done a fabulous job of making sure we get the most for our money. And then I probably interrupted for this reason the most. I want to thank Kirk and the council for approving the wastewater odor control, because I live in that neighborhood. So a little self-serving on that one. So I wanted to say thank you to Kirk and council for that one.
Okay, moving on to our under construction project list. So we have a new Civic Center Park for about $4.1 million here on the campus here, between the library and the new Aquatic Center. Excited to get that open for the programs to spill out from the Aquatic Center. We are nearing completion on the DeConcini Park remodel for about $2.8 million. We are up to earthwork and foundations for Fire Station 171 replacement. And to answer Rob's question on completion there, we're looking for opening the new station November of this year, and then finishing the demo and the site of the old station by February of 26. We're also working through our Old Town phases. We are up to phase 3. This is the cash-in area. Working through those improvements. We're close to finishing the water line, and then we'll start on the roads, be completing hopefully by August. That's almost a $14 million project. We are working on Hawk signals, $1.4 million. Currently, we have just started the one at the north side of Alomar Park, so be on the watch out, Ron. And then we are, if you have driven through the intersection of El Mirage and Lower Buckeye, we are working on that signal. We have the poles up, so we're working diligently to get that one done. That's about $2 million. So all told, about $40.2 million under construction right now.
Rick, I promise I won't do this every time. Mr. Mayor, if I can, it looks like a council member didn't understand what the Hawk was. Rick, can you explain what the Hawk is?
Okay.
It was the wings.
Actually, I'm still learning the acronym myself, but it's the signal that a pedestrian can come up to at a crossing, a street crossing, maybe mid-block, not necessarily at the intersection, and activate the signal. And for the driver, it will flash red and then go to red, and the driver stops, and then the pedestrian can cross. And then it'll turn to flashing again, so it doesn't time for the whole time as like a regular intersection. There's one down here at Littleton, on Avondale Boulevard, yeah. And Kim, you could probably give it the acronym better than me.
Hawk crossing. Okay. Yeah, no, pass, hard pass. So, yeah, like Rick described, it's another kind of safe crossing area for pedestrians.
Okay. And then coming soon, breaking ground this summer, we have the Western Avenue reconstruction from Central to 4th Avenue. That's about $2 million, has some federal funds in that project. We're working on the bridge housing, which is adjacent to the resource center for 6 units there. That's $2.4 million. And then when we have the Old Town phases continuing in phase 4 and phase 5. And 4 is sort of the Mountain View community area, and 5 is right adjacent to where the fire station is, to give you a visual where those two areas are. And again, we're spending about $14 million for those projects. Then we have our Friendship Park improvements. We're looking at the dog park remodel at 1.3, and then the new pickleball courts at about 1.4. So all told, we have a $21.5 million of projects breaking ground this summer that we're excited to get completed for park programs and housing and street improvements. And then our CIP, as always, continues to focus on this list of priorities. Our community pride, we want to make sure we are looking at opportunities to clean up the community, clean up the edges of our roads, add some streets, add some sidewalks, and curbing, some new wayfinding, the new monument signs. We are very active with Corey's leadership on our recreation and tourism. We've had great activity at the sand volleyball courts, and we want to continue to do those types of programs, and we'll be looking at trails. We're continuing to look for grant funding opportunities. Again, I've mentioned the trails and sidewalks. Also enhancing our public facilities like our libraries and adding more public safety facilities. Pavement preservation, we appreciate the council's support of that and that ongoing program. And as Ron stated, making sure we're completing all projects as planned, on time and on schedule. And most importantly, safety in our community. So we have streetlight infill programs. We'll be adding some lighting on the bridge at Avondale Boulevard. We're looking at traffic flow. There's a balance. While we got growth, we got new signals coming on board, but we also want to make sure that we're having the traffic flow. So we go back and we check timing. We've done some timing updates lately. And again, our acronym of the night, the more hawk signals are planned.
Mr. Mayor, if I can interrupt again, and I apologize, but Kim, I'm going to put you on the spot now. I don't remember reading the update. I got an ask about the Van Buren Bridge. We talked about lighting and safety. We were talking about adding solar lighting, I think, to the Van Buren Bridge. How's that project coming along?
Yes, I had an update earlier today, and that's working its way through permitting and plan review. So once we have those plans finalized, then we can go to construction.
And then we are also looking at doing a general obligation bonds grant this November. So the committee has been established, and we've been through 2 meetings. And we presented last on parks. We'll present here shortly on public safety and some follow-up with that. I'm sure Ron will give council guidance on their role in that and the timeline.
Thank you, Rob. So, Rick. I wanted to see if Rob, who's been leading these efforts on our bond, actually Katie's leading it, Rob's manning it and doing the hard work behind it. Like you said, we've had 2 meetings. We're meeting with a consultant now to do a community survey. The numbers and the projects up here are currently just suggestions to the committee. They have their own ideas. They have their own thoughts. And so the next meeting, they will be presented with our ideas on the public safety facilities. And then the following meeting from that, they'll really give us what they want or not to want include in the bond question. Remember, we have about a capacity for about $120 million. Been very clear to them that we do not plan to raise taxes, that this bond has to keep us at our current rate, but that would be a priority that I would not be bringing to council a recommendation to raise property taxes as a result of this bond. This bond will replace retiring, I think is how it's said, retiring bonds. And so we should be able to keep our tax rate flat. But Rob, if you want to talk about the process or how the committee's doing.
Thank you. So Mayor, Vice Mayor, Council. So we've had 2 meetings with them. So the first meeting with our Citizens Committee was to cover kind of just the general financials of the city and why we would seek additional general obligation voter authority. The second meeting we had was to review potential parks projects for such authorization. We'll have a third meeting on public safety, which is the second Tuesday in February. And then they will come up with a recommendation and forward that to council for council to consider. So council will have the ultimate say on what goes on the ballot and what the question or questions look like. But we are very thankful for our citizen committee and the support that they've been providing us, the feedback. It is very essential for us to listen to the community because this is truly something that we're asking the community whether they want this, if we're going in the right direction and if this is projects they trust us with. So thank you.
Councilmember Garcia?
If it doesn't pass, are we able to lower our tax since this is replacing something? Is that a benefit to not having the bond go through?
Yep. Mr. Mayor, Vice Mayor, Council, the absolute question is yes, you could lower it if you want. Doesn't mean we would. There is flexibility in our base sales, base property taxes and other bonds we pay off early. There's other things we could do. So I don't know that we would necessarily result in a lower tax rate. But at the direction of council after it's retired, technically, I can't see him. Keith, correct me if I'm wrong on this.
You are correct. So to expand on more.
Hey, thank you, Keith.
Ron is always correct, but yes, if we do not issue general obligation bonds, then as we pay off existing debt, the secondary property tax rate would go down because that is what the secondary property tax rate is for, is to pay off debt.
Okay, so our list of proposed projects for the Parks and Rec, we have the trail network and trailhead improvements. Then this will include the pedestrian bridge, and this is the pedestrian bridge that is over a drainage way just at Friendship Park, between Friendship Park and the freeway, that we've been pursuing for many years. It will also include park shade expansion, as well as Civic Center library renovations. Again, focusing back on those priorities that we have. Public safety, we have the Almar Public Safety Facility in that bond list as well. Some public safety administration, some police training, expansion for police, and the city court improvements.
Mayor, I have a couple questions.
Councilmember White?
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you as well. Rick, I appreciate this, but I think this question is for you, Mr. Corbin. I got a chance to actually see the land that Alomar has given us for the public safety facility. It looks like a triangular piece of land that, to me, honestly, is in a floodplain. I just don't know if that's enough. Is that what the bond committee is challenged with doing? Are they going to actually assess what we have and then go back and match the amount, or is this what we told them we want and that's our vision?
Mr. Mayor, Vice Mayor, and Council, there's a couple parts to your question. First, the land works. We've already had a site designed and created to make sure it would fit, both for fire and for PD. So we're good there. It is awkward. It's in a location. When I first got here, it was one of the first things. Charlene took me around with the chief. I think we did it right along, and we've questioned quite a bit if that's the right location. It's free land, which makes it a great location for that part of it. But we can make it work. It's on a road that has access to the raceway. and has through Broadway and El Mirage has good access to the southern part of the city as it grows and expands down in that area. So we think the location is good, and Fire Chief can disagree if we've debated it several times. There's also wires that go across the top, and so we've looked at all that, and we think it'll work just fine. The question before the committee, though, is really about, is this a project that they could support on the bond list? So eventually the question will go to the voters, goes through council, and council approves or alters or does whatever the question, but it comes from the committee first. And it says, here's how much we think you should ask for public safety. Here's how much you should ask for parks. Here are some of the projects we like. Here's what we think the community can get behind. This is what we think the community can believe in. This is what we as community members want to see. These are the things we're willing to pay property taxes to pay off the debt. Rob, this may be for you. The number up there, 31.6, I thought that was the total cost of the project, where we're only going to bond like 10 million of that.
That is correct. So
Okay.
the majority of the funding for that project would come from what we call development impact fees. So new development would be paying for the majority of that fire station, police substation, and then a portion of that we would be looking for some other funding source, which may include the general obligation bonds.
And Mr. Mayor, Vice Mayor, and Council, if I can also add, that number is still very preliminary. I actually think it'll be much lower. They used 175, I think, is the base. And this is a far out station. This does not need to be, this is on our peripheral. It's not a central station. So what we put there for growth and for other things will be very different than we would put for both PD and fire in a centralized station that's going to have more access, more reach than this on the southern edge of our town. We'll only grow as far as the Australias, so the racetrack, right? Anything on the south side of the Australias will take another police station, another fire station. They'll take another whole development. So when we talk about our growth, we have Tullison, Goodyear, and then the mountains. And so we're kind of sandwiched in. So we know that this will be the last station we need to build in the southern part of the city. There's no need for any other growth in PD and fire stations, facilities down there. I shouldn't say that for PD. You never know what we'll end up putting PD. But for a fire response time, this would be the right location. So, but we don't really go in, back to your original question, ma'am, and I apologize. We don't really go into that much detail with them. This is really, is this a project that you could support with a secondary property tax? Is that fair, Katie, or?
We got a couple of questions. Councilmember Garcia and then Vice Mayor Nielsen. Go ahead.
If and when the bond goes through, are the projects fluid, or that's what the money's going to go to? So if I'm speaking to the public and letting them know the bond is good because ABC, is that viable, or is it fluid where the project could change or fall off?
So, Mr. Mayor, Vice Mayor, and Council, it depends on how the question is written. You will have a question, and Nicole or team, correct me if I'm wrong, but the way the question is written, it'll be general: to construct, build, obtain, design public safety facilities. But attached to that, we'll have a description, a commitment to the community of what we will build from that. So if we list the Alomar public safety, if we list those 5 things up there for public safety, we will do those 5 things. How much we actually spend on each one depends on many, many things. If, let's say, the judge isn't listening, I hope. Let's say we do the court last. I hope he is listening.
Yeah, no, I'm listening.
But let's say we do the court last, and so the cost is now $10 million. We still will do it. It'll only be paying for 50% of the project, so 100% of the project. So the amount we spend and the, especially in parks, what we exactly do may vary. Maybe the location varies a little bit. We've got some ideas on the public safety, the fire admin building we've been thinking about, but we may find a better place for that. So the location, so there'll be parts of it that change, but whatever projects comes out of the discussion with both the citizen committee and then from council will be documented in a document for where's Marcella? The Marcella will keep on record for a very long time. So 10 years from now when I'm retired, there will still be on record that the city committed to doing this. You also have to think about timeframes. We hope to start and hopefully finish most projects within 10 years over the 20-year loan. But depending on the economy, when 2008, 2009 hit, it slowed everything down. So it's a long game. Also, you don't borrow all the money right off the bat, right? Because we can't build everything at once. So there's a lot of ifs. But back to your question, if we list a project on there, it's a commitment to the community.
Thank you.
And I think I was going to ask the same one. You answered it. If we do the 31 million and we find out that in 5 years or 4 years the inflation rate's gone up and that now becomes 38 or 39 or 40, where's the funds to make up the difference? But this is the idea, to put these things out to the community. This is our best estimate right now, and then we would have to adjust a little bit.
Mr. Mayor, Vice Mayor, and Council, absolutely. Lots of projects. The Aquatic Center, partially bond fund, correct me if I'm wrong, partial general fund. And so that ratio changes based on resource availability and bond availability.
And then any project, the council would have to approve.
Yeah, and it always comes back to council. Like as we're approving the project, you guys approve the fund that it is paid for out of. So we recently came back and asked for a few more $1 million of bond money for the design and construction of the expansion at the wastewater treatment facility. Again, we had to come to council to get permission to sell the bonds. We already had the authorization from the community to have the bonds, but we always come back to council to sell the bonds, to create the debt, and for approval of the project.
And just really quickly, to the contrary, not being able to utilize those funds would be essentially underutilization towards the investment, right? Sitting on funds and public funds that we're not doing something smart with. So,
Mr. Mayor, that's correct. It delays the project or cancels the project. There's nothing up there that we're not going to do at some point, right? We work very hard, as you saw from Rob earlier, to reserve our money, and we pay cash for a lot of things. If you just saw the numbers that Rick went through, that's a lot of cash. What wasn't in there, because it was in the last FY, was the Aquatic Center, $30-something million for the aquatic, $28 million.
Yes.
$28 million for the Aquatic Center. So we're spending a lot of cash and trying to borrow as little as possible. We think that's the best way to do the money that the taxpayers have given us to provide back to them. So, but at some point, this construction boom is going to slow, and we will not have all this money to do these projects that need to be done.
thank you. Appreciate it.
Mayor, Vice Mayor, Council. Next, we wanted to touch on our project adjustments. We've had some projects here that have been in our CIP for quite a while, and some inflation over time has impacted them. Those are the water reclamation facility expansion, and these are in the city manager's recommended FY26 budget. It's $22 million for the expansion of the wastewater or water reclamation. Old Town Phase 4, just $2.6 million, and the operational warehouse design, just $500,000. So.
Yeah, and Mr. Mayor and Council, if I may, those are projects. They're not all funded. For example, the water reclamation facility expansion is currently planned for a different kind of bond and impact fees. And then utility fees as needed. So we don't have, I think the project's up to 145, 155. It was 150 yesterday. It's about a $5 million. No, I'm kidding. Every day.
Every week.
It's
$5 million more a week.
Yeah, $5 million more in a week. So it's not all funded just yet, but the project is going to be in our long forecast, and so we have to begin to plan for it. We have not collected enough development impact fees to handle the cost of this plant. Over sometime this calendar year, I need to next year make sure I can see finance. Marcella, make a note. I need to be able to look at finance. We will be coming back to council to adjust our impact fee schedule. When we originally did it, when I first got here 2 years ago, it included a cost of a plant expansion at 50 million, 65 million, 60 million. And that's the number that was used to create the current impact fees for development. Well, we're less than half, right? Collecting what we need to be collecting. So this mid-cycle recommendation that we will be bringing back this year will only be about wastewater. We're not doing the other fees, but we feel like we need to start collecting. We are under collecting from developers currently to pay for the growth that they're costing us. So we'll be coming back just as an FYI to council to fix that increase.
And next, as we're doing our budget planning, we have some new asks that are not in the recommended budget as of yet. But we do want to expand El Mirage Road from Calle Hermosa to Illini. We have the Bartlett Dam project that's expanding the dam, creating more capacity for water, and that's a project with several cities beyond ourselves. We have the PFAS project, PFAS treatment. There's been some new regulations that have come into process of treatment of water, so we need to upgrade our facilities there. Of course, our Civic Center campus pickleball facility. This is the current estimate we have from the study. We are hoping it's not quite 19 million, hoping a little less, but we'll be designing that in the next fiscal year. And then last, we have the Desi Lorenz Park turf reduction, which is currently in design, and the 1.2 is funding for construction.
Rick, I'm sorry to keep interrupting, but I think this might be a good time, Mr. Mayor and Council, if you'll indulge. I'll let Kirk talk for a couple of minutes. I do think he should mention actually the Bartlett Dam as well to make sure they're aware of that. And then PFAS, just a few minutes.
So Mayor, Vice Mayor, and Council, a couple of items there on the slide. So first off is Bartlett Dam. We are one of about 26 partners in the valley that are participating in a plan to actually build a new Bartlett Dam downstream from the existing dam to add additional water storage capacity on the Verde River system. All of the partners have worked together to identify the allocation of water that they would get from based on their needs. The amount of water that we anticipate or hope to get would be about 5,000 acre feet, just a little under that, which basically offsets our entire Colorado River allocation. So we're not looking at it as new water, but as water to make up for any shortage we might see if we see a cut. I'll say when we see a cut in the Colorado River allocation, because we do expect to see cuts after 2026. So it's basically just making up for what we might lose. So our cost for that portion of water is $15 million. That would be our contribution to the overall construction cost of the dam, which is estimated right now to be $1.1 billion. We're looking to the federal government to pick up a big chunk of that, at least half. We're working, SRP is the lead agency on this. It's putting it all together and working with the feds, so we're partnering with them on that. PFAS is another issue. A few months ago, we came to council and talked to you in executive session about some class action lawsuits that we were involved with. The federal government, EPA, back in April of 2024, issued a regulation on PFAS substances in drinking water, requiring municipalities and water providers to remove that compound or compounds from their drinking water. And it's a very aggressive removal process from a standpoint of numbers. It's almost to the point that it's non-detectable in the water, that it's a very, very low amount that's allowed. We have to have the infrastructure in place and be meeting those regulations by April of 2029. So we've started on our process right after that regulation went into place in April to identify actually how much PFAS we have in our water and what kind of a problem we were looking at. We knew it was there, and as we were watching it over the last few years, EPA had issued what's called a health advisory level, which was 70 parts per trillion, and we were well below that number. We were in the around 20 in a few of our wells. The regulation that was issued in April is 4 parts per trillion. So where we were well under the health advisory level, we were suddenly would be way out of compliance. So we formed a team that evaluated what that impact was to the city, and about 70% of our water supply is impacted by PFAS right now, and we were going to have to treat all of that water before we distribute it to the city. The team has worked with a consultant. We developed an action plan, a concept on how to treat. We're actually going to be discussing that with city management later this week to demonstrate exactly what's in that $105 million. But it is a lot of treatment facilities that we don't have right now in several of our wells and our booster stations around the city. So it's a significant investment and a significant impact. I'm also, while I'm talking about it, I'm going to touch on something that came out last week. There was a little bit of confusion, and I want to make sure everybody's clear about that. This is an existing regulation that was put out in April of 2024. There was some news that came out on Thursday last week about PFAS regulations changing, and that is not the case. What happened on Thursday last week, actually happened on Tuesday, but announced on Thursday, is there was a proposed regulation for the discharge of PFAS into the environment through drinking water or other things from industrial and manufacturing facilities. That rule, under President Trump's executive order to put a freeze on new regulations, the rule that was being proposed was frozen and pulled out of consideration. So as it stands right now, industrial producers of PFAS or users of PFAS that discharge into the water system or anywhere in the environment can continue to discharge at whatever amount they are. It's not necessarily regulated, which really just puts more burden on the cities or the other municipal water providers to clean up the mess that they put in. I will say that PFAS is a very hot topic right now. It's been in the discussions with confirmation hearings for the EPA administrator. I mentioned the lawsuits that are involved. There's a lawsuit with a couple of the water industries against the EPA on how these rules were actually established. So I know that there's going to be a lot of turmoil over PFAS over the next few years. The regulation could possibly change. More likely than not, the implementation date may go out beyond 2029, but they could also change the limits, or it could just go away. We just don't know right now. So our plan at this point is to make sure we're prepared as best as we can be and be ready to pivot as things transition over the next couple of years. I have an email that I sent out to the city manager's office on Friday. I believe we'll share that to all of you through ANISA so that you're all informed on that development from last week. I'm happy to take any questions.
Mr. Mayor, Vice Mayor, and Council, if there's no other question about that, I saw a couple eyes open up on the $19 million for the pickleball facility. This year, we hired a consultant to tell us if a indoor facility could fit on that land between the pool and the courthouse and that area back there, and how many courts to make it viable. I think the number is about 10 indoor courts. So we know it can fit. We know we can put a building. We know we can put a parking lot there. We'll now actually, this next year, budget for a design. There's no plan to spend $19 million. That was for a normal constructed building like we would have here, or like an office building. Our plan would be to build something a little more sports-like, either ASC, or if you've been to any of the other indoor pickleball places, it'll be a little different. So the goal, I won't bring you a $19 million ask at that time. It will be millions to do any indoor facility, but stay tuned on that. We'll have a real number at this time next year at the budget once we have it designed.
Councilmember Solorio?
I have a question for you on two of the things. The Expand El Mirage Road, does that include sidewalks or is that just the road itself? Because I know in the past we've talked about expansion of roads, but is that road expansion and sidewalks to make it walkable or just road?
Mayor, Vice Mayor, and Council, yes, that includes the full build out of the road, including the sidewalk.
And then secondly, the Desi Lorenz Park. I had a resident talk to me last month, I believe it was, about a high presence of unsheltered population there. That turf reduction, is that something to maybe deter folks from setting up camps there, or is that?
Mr. Mayor, Vice Mayor, and Council, if I could take that. No, that is not the purpose of that. The purpose is water conservation. We think it's an opportunity to create more use, more desired use at that area. We've had several details of law enforcement, and Edith, I think, is behind me. We've been working through our sonar team to make sure that that park is used for good uses. But when we talk about redesign, that's not our primary focus. It's really,
I was just wondering in general, because it's looking at that 1.2 million. If we were going to put more of an investment in it, what were we doing to handle the other part? But you said we've had more details on that.
yes, ma'am, Mayor, Vice Mayor, and Council. I'm trying to think the last time we had a big detail there, but we keep an eye on there. And I can tell you, I did a drive along with Chief Espinoza maybe a month ago now. I don't even remember. So part of the direction from council was for me to get out more often. And so I've been doing these drive alongs with the different directors. And it was one of the first places we stopped. The second place we stopped was, I think, at that park. And we found a lovely lady there that we reached out to sonar. Where's Edith? Edith's back there. And tried to help to get her some help. But so we have an eye on that. We also know that probably about a year ago, there was some other activity in a vacant building right near there that we've been working on to keep that one clear. So we're aware of the area, but when we talk about these projects, it's really about creating a use that our community can use. We're looking at educational services there. Corey, did you have anything to add about that?
No. Ron, I think you're on it, and Vice Mayor, Vice Mayor, Council Member. So we're looking at doing some xeriscape gardening and demonstration garden educational opportunities, something that we've seen successful in a lot of other cities. And it's got the nice small parking lot platform as well as a bus pull-in. So if it was to become a field trip destination for maybe one of our senior programs, we see the opportunity to make it more of an educational space and really get the right user in there taking advantage of that park acreage. So. And
then lastly, pickleball. I think it's something that you and I had talked about briefly. That's not an actual building in itself, right? Is that an out of the open thing that we're looking at for the future?
Mr. Mayor, Vice Mayor.
Closed, should I say?
In this one, it'll be an enclosed facility. What that looks like, we'll have designed. The first people that looked at it this year didn't really understand that concept. But if you look at all the new and upcoming private ones, it's very open, welcoming. So what it actually looks like will depend on cost. And what we can come up with.
Because it does get a little bit loud sometimes, so you do have neighbors that are in the back.
Very concerned about that. One of the suggestions was put the parking lot in the back to create even more space behind those houses back there. No, we're very concerned about the noise. One of the suggestions the current consultant had was put a walking track in there. That's been an ask for our community, create indoor walking. But if you've ever been in indoor pickleball, you don't want to walk. It's very loud and obnoxious, and pickleball players can get very fun. We can get very fun. That's the word.
So that's what's wrong. That's what Ron's doing.
Okay.
Thank you, Rick.
Ron wouldn't know.
Mayor, Vice Mayor, Council, that ends my presentation. I know we've asked questions along the way, but if there's any others, we'd be happy to answer them.
Any questions? Oh, okay. Councilmember Condi?
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you. I just had a question because there was no mention of Donatella, the new park, the Donatella Park.
Yeah, Mayor, Vice Mayor, Councilmember, that is currently in design and is funded over the next 2 fiscal years for construction. So.
Perfect. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Give a number.
Any other questions from council? Okay, thank you. Thank you, Rick.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor and Council, while we're waiting for Rob to start us off, Rob, I think I kick in like slide 3. I think you have to do the first couple. Remember, this new partnership, Renee was supposed to be here, so I blame Renee. But I forget where it's going, at $5 million. I was trying to remember the number, but I think Donatelli is somewhere between $3.5 and $5 million to get started on that.
All right, so going through the budget priorities portion of this presentation, so we'll just kind of refocus back on our general fund forecast. So as Ron said, this does not include any supplementals or additional positions other than the Alomar fire station positions, which are anticipated to start in fiscal year 27. So a lot of the decisions on this budget process are going to be working within this space between the blue line, which is our ongoing revenues, and the ongoing expenses if we want to maintain that structural balance throughout our forecast. And then as a reminder to show what our forecast is looking like in that amount that we have above our minimum reserves or our stabilization amount. So we're looking at $30 million at the end of fiscal year 23 or 2030. So that is, if you add $1 million of ongoing expenses in the fiscal year 26 budget, that reduces that $30 million out in 2030 by $5 million because you're adding $1 million each year. Or if you add a $1 million project in fiscal year 26, that reduces that that amount in 2030 by $1 million. And then this is the schedule for our Citizens Bond Committee, which we previously discussed. So we'd be looking to have council approve the potential questions, consider the potential questions in May, and then November is when statutorily these elections must occur. So they can't occur on a primary election, they must occur in a November election. So I will kick it off now to Ron for the budget priorities.
Mayor, Vice Mayor, Council, a couple things I wanted to go through. In March, we're going to get together and go over the strategic plan. And the strategic plan will lay out the priorities for council for the next couple of years. If we wait till March to begin the budget process to really get into the budgets, I'm going to be way, way behind, and we'll have a budget in August. So these, based on discussions that we've had individually or in small groups, or discussions, we had a couple strategic meetings with the community members, and just based on what I've known from the new council members and the council, this is kind of as I begin to lay out how we spend that little bit of money, what new programs, what new staff we add, what do we fund. I tried to put together my thoughts, and I'm beginning to see a real shift towards economic development. We've always done economic development, but I think it's really been a little bit of tourism, a little bit of retail, a little bit of eateries, and helping some of the small businesses. It's just been helping. And I really see a new focus, and again, we'll confirm this in March, of job growth being our number one priority, bringing jobs to our community members, providing jobs and educational opportunities so our residents can get ahead in their lives. If they can work, play, learn right here in Avondale without having to get on that 10, we're just that much better off. So when I look at those things, I really see economic development, job growth, business attraction, and then, of course, continue to be business friendly. Had discussions today with my staff on approving and moving projects along. Sometimes we get handed a mess. Not everybody is a good player when they want to do things in the city. But none of that matters. Our top priority is to provide excellent customer service and help these projects get done that add value to our community, either eateries or commercial or retail or jobs or tax revenue. We want to help bring things that make our community better. So really for me, as I look at this next budget, a big priority for me there. I know that working through the Boulevard, which we'll talk about more in March, again, entertainment, food, and retail. You know, when we were, council was approving the data centers there on Avondale Boulevard, one of the big things that the community came out and said they want more eateries, they want more entertainment options. Big priority for us. Parks and Rec continues to be a priority, I believe, for this council. Again, correct me if I'm wrong. Keep, expand, add new. You've heard about a lot of those projects tonight. I think public safety is a top priority. personnel, equipment, and programs. We continue to invest in all of those services. You all should have seen on your calendar an invite. I believe it's Monday morning. We are celebrating the kickoff our first set of vehicles for the police take-home ride program, where all the officers will eventually have their own take-home ride. Well, with some caveats, all that want and those other things. But I believe you're being invited Monday, 8 or 8:30 or something like that, if you want to stop by and help us celebrate. Really appreciate council's dedication to that. Connected communities, one of the things I've been hearing a lot lately is what can we do to create a more engaged community? What can we do to get the word out and be involved? And so that's a priority. Peer is here somewhere. Her team does a fabulous job, but it's not just about Peer. It's about all our other departments, whether it's public safety or multimedia people throughout, or whether it's Jody in Avondale Connect and all the projects, or Kim and the projects she has going on, or Kirk getting more involved. And then, of course, I believe this council is dedicated to providing services to our community, whether that's sonar or the bridge housing or all the other great things you have. But when I began to look through what I needed to focus on, these were the things that came to mind. Any questions about that or comments or feedback? Moving on, so some of the things that we've already talked about, so I'll go real fast, get you guys out of here. The personnel, we continue to be dedicated to that. We're in year 2 of the fire MOU. We'll implement that. We'll begin negotiations for the next one in the fall. Oh, Tracy's not here to smile, but Tracy's looking forward to those negotiations. We continue to meet with police as we move forward with that. And then, of course, HR, Andy, and Renee, I believe, help lead the benefits team committee as we look at ways to attract our folks. Just as a reminder of what we've done so far, when I started 2 years ago, we were averaging over 100 vacancies on a regular basis. This morning's report showed 43 vacancies. That is less than a 5% vacancy throughout the city. We are at an 8% vacancy for sworn officers. So I think we continue to be higher than we want, but lower than, I'll take that number compared to most any of our competitors.
It's 8 officers.
8 officers. 5%. I had that wrong. 8 officers, 5%. So we'll have a 5% vacancy for the positions, sworn positions. Yeah, very excited about that. 1 in fire? 2. 2 vacancies in fire, as some of you attended the recent retirement of Cassie. We Ride, we're going to continue it. Oh, I'm sorry, I skipped. And then maintaining current programs. I think sonar and those kinds of programs, helping the elderly, helping those in need with rent assistance, and helping administer federal and county programs continue to be a priority for this council. We Ride, I've, in the budget, created a status quo. I've not added any resources. I think we're at what we can afford to do at this point. If more expansion is needed, we'll have to figure out how to do that, and I'll come back to council. Over the last year it's been running, it is super successful, but I think eventually there'll be some policy decisions about how much of the general fund should be going toward We Ride. But the base budget I'm starting with is funding it at the current level. And of course, parks, programming, and libraries, we continue to do great things there. We added several things. I don't know if you noticed, but our Christmas lights were even better than the year before. I've challenged them to keep doing better. Corey loves those kinds of challenges. I just know he does. We have fireworks. We have continued to fund and do a great job. We are the place to be. Kids Fest, all the great things that we do here, we continue to fund and see what we can do better. Really trying to step up our game in trails. You saw that on the bond committee questions. You've seen that in some of the projects. We got 2 underpasses going on right now. We've applied for a couple years worth of grants for the bridge from the highway to Friendship Park. Lighting, I know, is a priority for council on those trails, making them more visitors, creating educational opportunities, bird watching opportunities, all those kinds of things to help create a connected, educated community there for parks, but priority that we're working on. And then for me, and I think this is what I've heard from council, we need to be the best at what we do. We need to provide excellent customer service. We are business friendly. We want to bring jobs. We want to bring businesses. We want to bring opportunities here to our community. That means funding. Kim and Jody ask for things because they're working their tails off when it comes to development, permit reviews, plan reviews, inspections. The number of inspections those teams do is just amazing, and the problems that they have to solve. So we have lots of stuff going on to maintain those current programs. And then newer expanding programs, we've talked a little bit about business attraction. I think that Jen, I'm running there for a minute. I think Jen is a fine addition to our team. I see Cheryl in the back. Great team that they have going on there, but they're probably going to need some more resources to continue to do what they do. I always think we can do better with inspections and reviews and turnaround times and stuff like that. That takes money because our staff we don't have capacity. We are working full steam ahead in those departments. Trails and parks, we'll continue to work towards those. Community programs, sonar and otherwise. Special events, PFAS, we've already talked enough about that. That's depressing. I was having a great weekend until I got that email, just going to say. And then the wastewater treatment plant as we plan for that. Note for the wastewater treatment plant, again, we have to figure out a way to fund that because even once we borrow the money, we have to pay the debt back. So my budget priorities, we've gone through a lot of these, so I don't think I need to repeat these. Roads and sidewalks continue. We set up a plan, Kirk, $3 million a year, or maybe that's Rob. We set up $3 million a year for the next several years in our CIP to put towards pavement preservation. So we'll continue to work on all of our roads and streets, in addition to all the one-time spending we have on like the Old Town projects or Avondale Boulevard, or if there's another project that we have to do, Lower Buckeye Road and El Mirage. Then we have replacement programs. We have a very robust budget program for our large vehicles, whether it's in utilities or fire or other facilities. I recently received an update from Kirk's team on our vehicles and how we're going to get all of our vehicles up. Several years ago, before I got here, we created a program called Ghost Vehicles. And so those were vehicles that weren't operable anymore, but we could still use them. And so they got used, they get repaired, they're expensive, and they're needed. And so we're working through a program to replace those. Oh, yes, ma'am.
Fire, would that be included in this? Is that
Mr.
one-time
Mayor,
replacement?
Vice Mayor Council, yes.
Okay.
So the good news is, Kirk, and if I have the dates wrong, but I believe that was out 2 years. We were going to replace that one. It was already on the CIP. 1 year, 2 years. Kirk, Harold, Rob. Harold, when did we already have the truck that burned? It was already in the CIP replacement program. Yeah. So luckily, we do have a robust replacement program. These trucks don't last forever, and they're very expensive, kind of like some other trucks in the fleet. And so we work very hard to get those replaced. IT program, another large part of our budget, but to do all the great things that we want to do, we need their support and their help in their programs. Another department that's probably working at capacity. New indoor kind of storage facility. I don't know we talked about that a whole lot, but remember last year you guys authorized a study to evaluate space needs. Right now at the mosque, we have several departments working in his building. We want to get those folks out of there. We want to create a place for parks facilities. Where's Joel? I think Joel's out here, for them to have a place to put all their stuff. So we're in the middle of that. That's a stretch. We've started. Somebody help me out. We started that process very recently, right? The needs assessment? Yes. Okay. Yes, that's our thought. The only problem is it's in another city, but I won't say what city he lives in.
Thanks for not living in Avondale.
It's not a good thing.
Still protected by Avondale PD, though.
And then, of course, we are looking to expand the court jury training room over there at the courthouse. So we're looking at that. And I don't need to say anything else about PFAS.
Mr. Corbin, I didn't. I see that we have new requests. Do we have? Just taking a look at some of our infrastructure for like fire, they're storing stuff everywhere. Is that a part of their line item, or is that storage going to be separated? Like, is it going to be separate additional fire storage available?
No. I think we don't have, storage isn't, someone help me out. The storage project does not include fire. No. Perhaps the command van, which would free up a bay if we do that. There hasn't been a big ask for storage area. So when I got here, we noticed, remember Larry just got in charge when I got here? We found several empty spaces not being utilized. And we also found some spaces where there's some very old stuff that was kept for a long time. And so we've done a better job of getting rid of stuff that we don't need and we shouldn't have anymore and creating space. We also moved some personnel from his admin area to Fire Station 173, right? Do we move them out there? 170, yes. 173, we moved some people out there to create space. We also took the public room that was never being used at 175, and we put some storage in that area. And then, of course, there'll be a little bit of a storage area at the new fire station. But it really hasn't been a big ask for storage from fire. That I'm aware of. We debate the size of the new facility, but other than that, there hasn't, just to be transparent, I'm currently winning that fight, but I got a long ways to go to finish that fight. But
and again, nobody asked for it. I just walked around and I saw things stored in places that seemed awkward to me, but, I'm not in fire safety, so I don't know.
Working through it. Working through it.
Yeah, my observations only.
No, over the last couple of years, we've done, Chief Rooney has done an amazing job of making sure our firefighters have non-expired equipment, up-to-date equipment, and all of the equipment they need. I got an ask from another council member about PD needing some equipment. Providing equipment to our public safety officers, let alone all employees, is a priority for me. So if there is a true need, if there is something they have to do their job, to be safe, to be trained, it's a priority for us. What I don't think it was listed on here was the training tower. Oh, it's right there. Yes, the fire training facility. We hope to finish that very soon, and we'll have some storage area there. No, that is the new training tower going out in the mosque area, the pit out there that he would rather not be there, but that's where it's currently going. You had asked, if I may, Mr. Mayor, Councilmember, you asked probably a year ago about rappelling. This tower will allow them to train on rappelling. I happened to run into one of their technical crews probably a week ago, and we talked about me getting out there and getting to practice on it. So I'm looking forward to that. But Mr. Mayor, Councilmember Solara?
Question for you. Are all our fire engines in a covered place rather than being stored outside, or do they? Because and it may have just been maybe they're just parked there outside, but a vehicle of that caliber not being covered and exposed to elements just kind of sticks out there when visiting other fire stations and then visiting other towns when we're out serving nationally on the importance of keeping those vehicles covered. Is there a possibility for maybe storage at the mosque to make, or
Mr.
around
Mayor,
the area for that?
Thank you. Mr. Mayor, Vice Mayor, Councilmember Solara, they're all stored indoors. So they all have a bay to go into, including we allow the association to keep the old fire truck in one of our bays.
Okay.
So we have enough bays. One of the, as we're looking at 176, the public safety facility in Alomar, is I had Chief Rooney create a map of all of our vehicles and all his desired vehicles that he wants, and we put them in a place to make sure everything that we agree is needed is stored indoors.
Okay.
Any other questions? Because I think that this is now where Rob gets to finish up. But I guess I can while I'm here, right? Do you mind, Rob, if I wrap it up? January, we're going to do this. We have the department head meetings going on right now. We are going to bring utility rates back to council. In addition to the PFAS and to the wastewater treatment plant, we have just ongoing inflation and projects. Remember 2 years ago, for those of you that were here, we came back with a 2-year plan. So we'll kind of try to do the same kind of thing and present that to council. We also will be bringing, it's not on here, we'll be bringing back the impact fee analysis and recommendation to council for impact fees for wastewater. And will we be doing, so I don't see it listed, will we be doing solid waste as well? when we talk about utility rates, yeah. So that will also include solid waste rates. As you know, here next week, the schedules change next week. Harold, yes, give a thumbs up. Next week, the schedules change. That's an effort to make us more efficient. So we are doing everything, trying all sorts of things to do what we can to spend the least amount of money and to provide the best quality of service. But all of those will be coming back to council. In March, we have a work session on the budget if needed, which probably will be needed shortly after the retreat. And then in April, the recommended budget is presented to council and tentative budget adoption, final budget adoption. All along the way, council can make adjustments, reprioritize, redirect, and give us feedback to fix all along the way. Rob, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think I have this right. May, the adoption of the tentative budget sets our maximum spending allotment cap. So after that approval, we can no longer spend more money than is approved by council. You can make internal changes as long as the total budget does not increase. And then we bring back the final budget in June. I believe state law requires it to be adopted by July something, if I remember correctly. Okay. With that, you have all of your directors here, several appointed officials. We're here to take questions, answer questions.
If I may, real quick, less of a question, just kind of more comments for council that I had the pleasure through the city manager's office to meet one-on-one with each director prior to the holiday break. And I got to say that it was a really eye-opening education. I did it more to be in line with our strategic planning that will occur during the retreat in March. But I got to tell you that it really lines up well in addition to not only the strategic planning opportunity, but to this budget discussion as we look at, which was mentioned by City Manager Corbin, capacity. That every department here, I can attest based on conversation, and I know you're all very full aware, that they are all working at not only capacity, but in some cases I would say max capacity, whether it be related to full-time or some sort of assistance regarding employees, equipment, technology, all of the above. And so what I plan on doing with that is to provide each one of you with a summary of those discussions. And I really intended to have it today. I did not have it finished on time, but I will pass it out to each one of you so that you are, or through the city manager's office, provide it to you so that you are aware of not only what the strategic goals are of each department, but how they fit and align with some of the budget discussion that we had today, because I think that they align themselves very well. Just based upon some of the comments that you made, Ron, and what's been mentioned by several of the departments here, is that, I really thank you. I know council really thanks you on just how hard you work and how dedicated you are to the city. And if residents only knew just how much you prioritize our resources and decisions that are made, they would be very pleasantly surprised to learn just how effective you all are at managing your departments. And so I want to say personally, thank you for your time that you spent with me over that duration. As I mentioned to you then, council will be getting a summary of all of the information that is provided. And I know that as a policymaking body, it is our job to not only provide our residents with the best customer service and organization as possible, but you all with the resources that you need. And so I hope that in one small part that summary will just kind of reinforce everything that you've all shared with me, and that I could be a conduit to some of those decisions that we make moving forward. And so at this time, is there any other questions from council that we have, or anything that you would like to provide to any member of the departments?
On the maintenance part of it.
Councilmember Solorio?
On the maintenance part of the budget, when they're talking maintenance, not only that's Kirk's vehicles, right, but that's also any fire vehicles, police vehicles, that includes all of it?
Mr. Mayor, Vice Mayor, and Councilmember Solorio, yes, we have I don't know what the cost threshold is, but any of our large items are on a replacement schedule.
Okay.
And we work through that. And that's, Rob, correct me if I'm wrong, but that's in our base budget. So when you look at the 5-year forecast, it includes what we expect to replace in the next 5 years. And another council member asked me about when do we order that. We order that as soon as it opens up, so our vendors usually have a window, and so we try to get into the front of that line when we can. You often know that because we come back to council March, April, and ask for permission to purchase the items early.
Just because I remember before you were here with Charlene being here and the fire truck that was ordered, and she had said that that was a priority, but it was on order, so that's why I figured to ask.
Mr. Mayor, Vice Mayor, Councilmember Solaro, I believe we have 2 new fire trucks in town. They're not quite usable yet, but they're in town.
They're getting all the decals on them. They're getting all the inspections done, and sending down some equipment that we've already purchased because we've been waiting for these. These were supposed to be delivered last April, so we have everything for it, and hope to get it in service as soon as possible. And we will invite you all for the
Ceremony. No.
They won't let me drive it anymore.
Vice Mayor,
Just a question that popped into my mind. So you've got the new vehicles coming in and whatever it is. What happens to the old ones? Do they get retired? Do they get shoved to another community or something?
They get pushed out.
Pushed out.
Mr. Mayor, Vice Mayor, Councilmember Garcia and I get to drive them around town for a while.
Don't tempt me with a good time.
So many things can happen. Eventually they get sold off, auctioned off. We have a way of getting rid of them. In the meantime, though, if they're usable, workable, we have backup ones we keep around for backups. They go down periodically for repair, for regular maintenance, and so it's always nice to have a few backups. Yes. Well, Mr. Mayor and Council, again, thank you for allowing us to have this discussion with you on our budget. Special thanks to Rob, Keith, Renee, who's not here, Rick for stepping in, and the team, and all of the directors who put in the work, the ask, and the knowledge that they have to share. So, again, I look forward to talking more about the budget later on.
Thank you so much, Ron. Looks like we have summary of current events from members of council. Is there anybody who would like to share? Councilmember Garcia.
I went to both the strategic planning with the community, and it's awesome to hear what they want, like a theme park, resorts. But what they were saying, you are already doing, and the community doesn't know it. So I think utilizing social media or maybe a campaign where you guys tell them what you're doing in your departments would be very helpful, so they know that these things are already happening. The program, the Gateway program, this guy thought that he had the most amazing idea, to get the community involved doing it, but we are already doing it, and they don't know that. So it would be amazing to see that out there, that you are doing these things, because you should be proud of it, and it should be shown on our social, on our news medias and all that stuff. And also with that, the people who are attending these are all the people that always attend it. So we need to somehow find a way to reach people who never attend these meetings, because I think the reason why the south of Avondale has been doing so well, because they're so active. Those active community members really fight for their community. Where I live all the way north, and I might be one of the only people in my neighborhood that even knows that we have a city council that's actively working on really good stuff. So maybe an outreach on the north side of the freeway to get more people that are there to see all the stuff that's available to them, so they don't have to go to Litchfield or Goodyear, but they have it already in their city. It was really eye-opening. I look forward to speaking more about it in March, but you guys are already doing a really good job, and the community just really needs to hear what an amazing city we live in.
Thank you, Councilmember Garcia. Okay, Councilmember White.
Thank you so much, Mayor. Fellow council members, I had the opportunity to go to the city of Tempe on January 13th to celebrate with them the MLK Junior Day. and I had a great time. It was just really interesting being able to see that cultural celebration and participate with the team there. They gave out great awards, and I was able to get recognized as a member of council here. I also, this past Saturday, in the city of Peoria, I participated in an event with Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated. They did Hustle for the Heart in honor of this Heart Awareness Month that starts on February 1st. So if you have a chance, don't forget to wear, ladies, a red dress on Friday. Be mindful, check on your friends and family members, check on their heart, and make sure their heart awareness is there. But I did provide yoga instruction, and I did that out here in the West Valley. And then finally, I just wanted to share an additional appointment that I received just this past Friday, a National League of Cities. I received an appointment to the Racial Equity and Leadership Council, so I will be serving at the National League of Cities level on that organization. So, thank you.
Councilmember Solorio?
I'm really excited about this one, Jen. I was appointed to the Economic Development for NLC. It's a federal advocacy committee. So that will be amazing to put us on the map, but also to tie in with that, I was appointed for vice chair for the Small Cities Council, and I will be representing a larger population because the other people that I serve with are Grandview, Texas of 1,500, Chadbourne, North Carolina, and College Park, Georgia, and we are at the top of the list. So they said, we want that. Their exact words were like, we want that Avondale type of money to bring that many people in because we don't have that. So it'll be great because they work not just in one area, they work in all areas. They work in PD, they work in fire, and they bring those ideas together and help shape policy and take that to DC, and that's where we bring our influence in for bigger things to happen on the horizon. So.
Okay, well, thank you so much, Council. If I can get a motion for adjournment.
Second.
Okay, I got a motion from Councilmember Condi and a second. Councilmember White. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. No opposed? Okay, thank you so much, everybody, for being here, and have a great night and drive safe.